thanks for tuning in. Today's video is part of a series for X-Plane 11 flyers who are considering the HP Reverb G2 for flying in VR. I'll be describing my experience of overall frame performance and visual clarity flying popular X-Plane 11 aircraft with the G2 using my PC configuration as the baseline. My hope is to give X-Plane 11 users an idea of what to expect using the G2 with X-Plane 11. Let's start with my hardware configuration. And here are my G2, SteamVR, and X-Plane 11 5.2 settings. I'll be conducting all flight tests out of Juneau International Airport using Ortho4XP scenery at base zoom level 16. Let's define what I mean by frame performance. To me, this is the degree of smoothness of flight or level of stuttering experience while flying in VR. For VR sim flying, 30 frames per second is normally ample unless you're barnstorming at high speeds with lots of close objects in view. Often overlooked though, frame time is an important metric for smoothness of flight. With X-Plane 11, the type of CPU, GPU, RAM, and disk use all have an effect on frame performance. X-Plane 11 tends to be CPU-centric, so the more cores you feed it, the smoother the performance is going to be. I recently upgraded it from a 4 to 8 core CPU and saw a big improvement in frame performance. Your results will vary, of course, depending on your PC configuration. You'll see both frame time and FPS on the screen during these tests. The image is the X-Plane 11 desktop view for VR. I've minimized all other apps and screens, so resources are available for X-Plane 11 and the G2. I'll be describing what I see in the G2 VR headset. Alrighty guys, today we're in the TorqueSim SR22, one of my favorite planes to fly in VR, that's for sure. This is the 1.1 version, updated as of today, March 8th, 2021. I'm running X-Plane 11 11.52, the general release, not the beta. Again, it's one of my favorite. The detail in this plane is fantastic. So it's a super high-res plane. It's going to put a lot of pressure on GPU, CPU because of that high-res, but it seems to be functioning very, very well here with the HP Reverb G2 with the settings that I have. You see a nice glaze, or I should say like a shine off the top of the panel there. Everything is super visible. I don't have to lean forward to read everything. Very similar to the last plane. And if I look over there, the Temsco logo is absolutely crystal clear. Maybe a little tiny bit of fuzz around the edges, but certainly looks very, very lifelike. Go outside the plane, and the plane, the textures and the reflections and the shine just looks really phenomenal. Give you a look at that. Man, this plane is gorgeous. It's one of my favorite planes to fly. It really is. All right, so what we get myself centered here. We're here again in Juneau International Airport. We're going to do the same lap that we did last time with the last plane, and I'll just describe what I see as far as performance. And when I say performance, I mean micro stuttering or stuttering, basically frame time, the smoothness of the experience. All right, so let's go here. We're going to so far I'm going to go right through this truck here, but that's okay. Very smooth in taxiing, just trying to keep it kind of low here. Let me set my flaps to take off, so we're ready to go there. As far as the visuals, fantastic visuals. I could see the cracks in the paint on the yellow lines here in the taxiway. As I make the turn here, I don't really see any stuttering or experience any stuttering at all. It's maybe just a tad a little bit. Now you guys can see the CPU GPU utilization there on the screen to give you an idea of what resources are being used here. So we're going to idle back here. We're just going to roll right up on the runway, take off, and do our typical lap. and then come back and land from the west. All right. You know, again, I could see the snow-capped mountains and ice-capped mountains in the distance there pretty easily. Probably harder for you to see in 2D than it is certainly for me. To me, it looks very lifelike, and as it should be as far as range and distance. All right, so we're going to line up here, and we got our flaps set. We'll get on the center line, and we'll just get ourselves rolling here a little bit. Power her up. I detect a little bit of micro stuttering as I'm starting to gain speed here, and objects are moving a little faster. Looking to the left, the buildings are moving very smoothly. Okay, we got 100 knots there. We can certainly take off here. So that's a smooth takeoff. Very realistic. Really no stuttering to speak of. Those mountains in the distance, which are probably a good 10, 15, maybe even further out. Yeah, probably further, about 20 miles out. I can certainly make them out and define like the shadows of the mountains. We're going to make a turn here to the north and head up to the glacier. Let's get our flaps off so we can fly a little faster. Starting to pick up speed now. Now on this turn, I'm detecting a little bit of micro stuttering, not much, but as I straighten things out here, it just gets smoother. I don't notice any jerkiness at all when I turn my head left and right. The panel it's just as if it would be in real life with my head moving. Really is a beautiful place to fly, and this is a great plane to fly in this area. It's really, really, really cool. All right, so again, very smooth, and I picked this area because there's a lot of terrain and a lot of scenery and a lot for, you know, your CPU and GPU to process, or at least I should say mine. So it gives you a good, I think it gives you a good representation of you know, a difficult area. Another area might be New York City, like LaGuardia Airport, because there's so many buildings in that area. That's probably another good area to test out. All right, so we're going to just make a U-turn here. But again, it's a very realistic feeling. For a plane with so much high res, it really does function very well with the G2. For the settings that I have. Alright, so we're going to head back to the west of the airport, and then we'll make our turn, and we'll come back and land Juneau Airport right over there. You can easily see it with the in the what's that, probably about 5 miles away, something like that, 4 miles away. Easily see it. So with my configuration, as you saw in the beginning of the video, I would recommend this plane for sure. If you got anything above my configuration, you're not going to have any problems at all with this. It's a smooth, I mean, I touch the yoke and it's a smooth change in elevation there. You can see the nose going up and down. It's just absolutely smooth, no rigid, no jittering, no stuttering at all when I do that. All right, so we'll make our turn here, start to reduce altitude. Beautiful distance mountains, you know, 30, 40, 50 miles out there. That mountain right there in the foreground, I can certainly make out the snow. It's a little bit fuzzy, but I can certainly make out the snow and some of the details of the mountain. I can see a fishing boat out there in the middle of the bay. All right, so we're going to make our turn in here. There's the Juneau Airport right there. Easily spot that and see the runway. where my target is, so I can make my base turn, start to slow down here and reduce altitude. Just popping in a notch of flaps there. Great view from up the valley from right here, looking up there. Alright, we're going to tip our wing and start to make our turn in. Again, very smooth and realistic feeling. I mean, this is a $55 plane, so, you know, I know that if you're going to invest in this plane, you want to know that it's going to work and function well with your configuration. So that's the reason why I'm doing these videos for these third-party planes where you get to pay a decent chunk of money. You want to know that it's going to function well. So now this is a cool plane because you actually get two versions. You get the normally aspirated version and you get the turbo version, which is pretty cool. I normally fly the normally aspirated just because I like the light interior. There's not much of a difference in speed, really. I've noticed maybe a few knots on the turbo. All right, so we were lined up to land here. Again, very realistic experience. Smooth, no stuttering at all, really, at this point. Slowing down to 86 knots. Trim her up here a little bit. We got full flaps. Nice and smooth. All right, there you go. Oh, we just did a little bump in the runway there. All right, so we'll let this plane kind of run out itself here because you got to watch the brakes here. You don't want to overheat the brakes on this plane. It's a study level plane, so you've got to watch all your systems and stuff. All right, make our turn here. Just notice an ever so slightly bit of stuttering there as we're starting to see more scenery here. But certainly manageable. I mean, obviously, if you have a GPU that's, you know, got better performance than a 1080 Ti, you're not going to have any issues. Let's head right back to the spot where we started. Clean up our flaps. I'm still getting the hang of this, the steering. It's a differential steering, I think it's called, where you use the brakes to actually steer the plane. Let's see, I don't want to park there. I'll park over here. Next to that Skyhawk there. Guess that's a Skyhawk. Alrighty. Oop, little bit of a turn there. Okay, cool. Let's hit those brakes. I should probably show you the controller too, so you could see how that moves in the cockpit. We'll just put the brakes on so you can see the controller moves fine, nice and smooth, seems to be. Maybe a little jaggedy, but certainly no issues and doesn't cause any issues as far as performance goes. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for this test flight of the TorqueSim SR22 version 1.1. Again, one of my favorite planes using the HP Reverb G2. I hope this video was helpful. Please hit that like button if you like what you saw today, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more X-Plane 11 VR videos with the G2. We're going to be testing more planes with the G2 to give you more information before you make a purchase. Hope this was helpful, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.